Hey guys, welcome back to the 19th hole. In Between Media is excited to present the 2024 season on the PGA Tour. We're starting with the Sentry on Maui in Hawaii. Aloha. Make sure you like and subscribe. Join us for the 19th hole. Aloha, everyone, and welcome back. 19th hole, season 24, 2024. Season, what, 4, 3? I don't even know. But Connor's back. Look at Connor.
I've known you too long. I've known you too long at this point, I think. That's how many seasons.
Yeah, it's we got all the 19th hole loonies back in the gang here. Let's pull them up before we get started. Seth, our fearless leader. Oh, yeah, let's fucking roll, baby. Royal Slade, aloha to all you in Canada that are going to be telling us to play Corey Connors again. Don't do it.
Are you ready to be hurt?
Hey, oh, hi, Joey Wrights. Football guys in the house. I'm a very proud member of the Ojai gang. I need to get one of those shirts to make it official. Season 4 of the 19th hole. We're starting with the Sentry. It's not the Tournament of Champions anymore because they added on the top 50 on top of the previous champions. They just simplify it. It's like the Ohio State University. It's the Sentry.
Yeah, you have to say it in that accent moving forward. Now that's fancy as hell.
Yeah. Wendy is here. She's early, as her name would imply.
On time. We'll take on time from Wendy.
Wendy punctual. Well, we got some new tools and tricks up our sleeves for the tournament here. We got banners. We got the Plantation course at Kapalua on the island of Maui. Look at that, Connor. We also have a new drop for you, but let's figure out what we're drinking first.
Like I was saying, I went old staple. I figured I'll start the season out on a staple. Hopefully my traditions pay off and we have a good week. So just a little Old Forester 86, just a little base, just a little sipping liquid.
A little bass, little bum 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 bum, just a little strum. Well, I broke out a very special bottle. I got this for Christmas from my mother, and it is a Heaven's Door Homesick Blues Minnesota Wheated Bourbon. It is cast strength at 122.7 proof. Special edition Bob Dylan. It actually has a double-sided copy of his actual writing of Homesick Blues on the stationery from the Hotel Rhine in Germany where he wrote it. It's really cool touch there. But I'm excited to finally pop this open and give it a sip. Ooh, that's got a great nose already.
Yours had a cork pop. Mine's a twist off. So fancy.
Well, Old Forester, the OG Old Forester is timeless. It's that good. It should have a screw top. It's not pretentious. It's just good old fashioned brown juice that'll make you feel good and it won't hurt your wallet.
Not even a little bit. $25.
I don't even want to know what my mom paid for this. So by the way, it's got all kinds of fancy.
Well, you're out of the will now. I mean, that's it. That's your.
Joey's here. Royal and Wendy are getting cozy in the chat here. Let's brush off the first of our new drops. Let's go into Caddy notes before we get the Caddy notes from our guy Conor Coughlin.
I'm excited.
That's a pretty good one. Was that your chair squeaking?
No, that was my gets the people going, man. No, that actually.
Oh yeah, Royal's very astute here. He switched sides on the screen. You are correct, Royal.
This is my better side, so we're just trying to.
You know me, I'm always starving for attention, so I prefer to be on the left side, but that's the way the graphic got made, so I'm not going to argue with it.
It's just a subtle way of Seth saying I'm more important.
It's not very subtle, but yeah, you're right.
Dude, I gotta say that was cool. That's the first time I've seen that. So yeah, welcome to a new year.
Yeah, happy New Year to Bo. You're being relegated to the right side.
I also look much taller on the left side. Like, truth be told, we're the same height, but not online. We aren't. I'm very tall.
No, you're very close to your camera, which makes you look gigantic compared to me, and that's not the case.
It adds 30 pounds more to what I am. So
yeah,
get all my chin.
I can see your pores.
Oh God, that's bad. Really, I should turn my hat around.
Super high def.
All right. So enough of our nonsense. So we are at the Sentry. This is an elevated event. We got the winners in the top 50 from last season. We're at the Plantation course in Kapalua. Par 73, 75, 96 on the yardage. You got some wider than average fairways, larger than average greens. This should be a birdie fest, providing the weather plays nice, which we're getting mixed weather reports, but we can talk about that in a bit. There is quite a bit of elevation change here, which actually will add quite a bit of distance for some of the shorter guys off the tee. What's interesting about the off the tee portion, even though these are super wide fairways, the majority of the field will be hitting their approach shots from almost the same spot. This is definitely a second shot course. Like I said, getting back to the weather briefly, like we're definitely going to get some moisture, mostly Thursday, Friday. It's not going to be crazy. Wind, depending on where you read, and this is the part that you want to pay attention to when we get closer to lock on the betting side as well as the DFS side. Is definitely take a look at the wind, because we've seen reports as subtle as 7 miles an hour. We've seen as high a gust as mid 20s. So you start getting up there in the windier, in the 20s, low 30s in the wind. That's going to play havoc on these guys a little bit. It's a little bit of the defense of the course, because outside of that, relatively straightforward course. You got Bermuda greens. What else are we talking about here? We got it's a no cut event, which basically is a huge benefit for DFS when we get to that. I'm guessing about 28 under probably wins this. I think we had 27 last year with John Rahm taking it down. We had 34 under the year before with Cam Smith. Even our old buddy Harris English, who were a little reluctant to play nowadays, threw a 25 under down a couple years before that. So like I said, it's second shot course, a lot of stroke gain approach, looking at the different proximity buckets that these guys are going to be hitting approach from. You definitely need to score birdies in bunches, so you want to take a look at that. I'm a little different than a lot of people. I am emphasizing driving distance just a bit. I really want to see if we can get guys that are hitting predominantly like high irons and wedges this week. So a little bit of distance never hurt anybody, and this place is wide open. So I kind of like attacking it from that angle and being a little different than the rest of the world. Outside of that, if you're building a model for DFS, I would definitely take into account DK points. With no cut, you're getting 4 rounds, so you want guys that historically score well. So I think that is what I know about the course, Bo.
Yeah, and I'm with you on a lot of those things there. We'll have to see what the weather looks like. According to AccuWeather, we're looking at pretty calm winds overall, but gusts, of course, it's Hawaii. So, I mean, it's a tiny chain of islands in the middle of Pacific Ocean. You never know what you're going to get. There's been a lot of chain of storms coming through that area. It could be pretty wild. It could be pretty mild. At certain points, if it's mild, you're going to see everybody in this field score well. And that's going to be a pretty good equalizer for us. So I think both of us are hoping that the weather is a little bit gnarly so that we can get some of these better plays rise to the top. This is 59 players in a field that used to be 30 because of the expansion of prior champions plus the top 50 left over. It's a bigger field, more money involved. It's the same old straightforward par 73, the only one on tour. One of the longer courses on tour, but lots of elevation changes that kind of make that more of a kind of a misleading yardage. You got a lot of big, like the 18th is 677 yards, but most players can reach it into because it's straight down towards the beach. You get 150 yards after the landing spot of rollout on drives. It's fun to watch because the backdrop is spectacular. It's the Pacific Ocean and all the palms. And I mean, if you get some strong trade wins, the scoring could be below 20 under par. We saw a couple of years ago, it was down at 14 under par. So you never know. I think it'll be kind of in the middle where you're 25 to 30, like you said, 28, the pretty solid number. But if it stays calm, we could see 30 under pretty easily, or even better. With an expanded, better field, the scoring is going to be strong.
Yeah, there's a lot of good guys to take a look at in this field too that are fully capable of getting in excess of 30 under if the weather stays pretty calm. So yeah, I think
how long do you want to go till we start fighting? Because driving distance, John Rahm, long hitter, but not one of the longest. Cam Smith set the course record here at 34 under. He's one of the shorter hitters on tour, or kind of moderate distance. I don't think it plays any part at all. Obviously, you want to have some length here, but if you have your run-of-the-mills tour average or above distance here, you're going to be fine. And I do think that one correlation that hasn't been played up as much that I've seen is putting, like converting birdie chances, and maybe not just straight strokes gained putting because this course isn't that hard. You're going to see a lot of guys make putts, but the guys who can convert the birdie and eagle opportunities on these par fours and par fives, that seems to be what Cam Smith excelled at. When Rahm won here, it was just because he got so blazing hot on the greens, getting aggressive. We notice it's Bermuda, but they're slow Bermuda. John Rahm didn't do well on fast greens. We outlined that all last year, where we could predict when John Rahm was going to compete and when he wasn't, just based on the speed of the greens. Slow Bermuda greens means these aggressive type putters are going to do really well here. And maybe not for the top guys that we're looking at that everybody's going to be betting on and putting in their DFS lineups, but those mid-range and long shot guys, I'm looking for guys who are making lots of putts. This is kind of your putting contest type of setup for me. That's how it looks from my perspective.
Yeah, the putting, I definitely had quite a bit of putting in my modeling. So,
Good.
typically,
I like that. We're not fighting it.
Well, I mean, and we're not going to fight on the distance either. Like my point with the distance is more along the lines of some of the bigger hitters are hitting shorter irons in from on the second shot approaches. So I like some of the guys that are a little more handy with the shorter irons, and I think that translates. Like Aberg is one that I would look at, that the driving distance and the second shot average distance. I think those are things to actually value with him this week versus a guy like maybe Brian Harmon, that's going to be a club or two longer on each shot.
Sure.
So that's kind of more the distance correlation I'm talking about. But 3-putt avoidance, especially on these greens, I think are around an 82% hit rate, which is like huge. I think it's like the third best on tour. And so when you look at that, it's like people don't always take into account that, yeah, they're hitting the green, but they might be 50 feet away. So guys that are more. That's what I'm looking at. And to your point with the birdies, I looked a lot at like opportunities gained. So guys that are knocking it close on their second shot and giving themselves a solid look at birdie within 10, 15 feet. So I think we're pretty similar. I just have a little bit more of a distance or a power type of profile built into my model. So.
Yeah, I kind of built it in as kind of a like a constant as a control. Like my control is distance, so it's not something that separates anything for me. It's just something I'd like to have. Maybe it's a tiebreaker type thing. If I have two guys that are right next to each other, and it's like you said, Harmon on a 7,600 yard course, probably don't want him over Ludwig Aberg because Ludwig is a robot. He's not even human. He hits the ball 300 yards just without blinking because he doesn't require blinking or sleep or rest or water. So we'll actually see this season starting this week. whether Ludwig Åberg is even human. This is the breakout season we're all expecting. Maybe a little premature to say that he plays well here. That's what we're gonna probably fight about as soon as we hit this drop here for Club Twirls, because we're gonna be betting. We're both laying skin in the game here on the first event of the year, the Sentry. Let's twirl some clubs. Club Twirls. We're gonna use DraftKings Sportsbook again this year. Really neutral book, really solid odds. They don't change a ton for golf from the time they're released on Mondays to when we're talking about them on Tuesdays and worrying about them on Wednesday nights. This is it's really nice to see that they're already on their bullshit this year, DraftKings Sportsbook, with the lines at the Sentry, because we have 11-2 odds on Scotty Scheffler and 8-1 odds on Viktor Hovland. And as you probably know from watching the show for the last 3 years, is we're not about to go less than 10-1 on any particular guy unless it's really warranted. Connor, I have a feeling we're going to fight, because I'm not putting any money towards either Scheffler nor Hovland, because I like the guys in the 12 to 16-1 range just as much. So why lay more money to win the same amount of money when Scheffler and Hovland aren't that much better than all the other guys?
And see, that's where I disagree. I think they are that much better than the other guys. And
it's usually the other way around, right? Like last year I was all over Scheffler a couple times where he was 5 or 6-1, and I was like, yeah, let's do it anyway. And one time it paid off and the other times it didn't. But we won a shit ton on Hovland last year, so it kind of evened out.
Yeah, and I think even at these short odds, I mean, I honestly think that those two guys, Scotty and Viktor Hovland, and I mean, they're short, so you got to make a decision. I don't think you can put enough skin on it to make it worthwhile on both of them. At least I can't. I'm not that independently wealthy, so I think
you wouldn't be gambling on golf.
That's right. That's right. Be doing responsible things like talking to some sort of investment banking or something. But no, I think if it's me, I lean Scotty. Scotty's got decent history here. He dominated this year in terms of approach and off the tee, and all his proximity buckets look really good. He hits the ball super close, which is about the only way that he's been able to save himself from his horrid putter. But even that, I know that's been the key focus of his offseason. I know he's got some equipment changes. He's had some customization done to try and get himself right in that method. And on top of that, even as bad as his putting has been over the last 12 to 14 months, he gained over 3 strokes here last year on the putting surface. So, this is a.
Where did he finish last year? 13th,
11th,
the 30. Oh wow, so dominant.
No, but you just look at the actual statistical performance of him. I mean, you just can't rule Scotty out. I think with Hovland, I think he's probably got the more well-rounded game right now. I think every aspect is almost equal at this point. And so it's hard to deny that Hovland is probably the hottest golfer on earth next to Åberg, probably, even more so maybe. So I feel really good about either one of them having a really, really high potential to win here. It sets up really nice for both of them. Well-rounded game. Again, Scotty finds that putter just a little bit, or feels comfortable on the slower Bermuda, which we know he is a little better putter on a slower surface. I don't think either one's a bad bet.
So I ran some numbers, and the one bucket on approach that worried me on Scotty was 200 plus yards, and that's where he came in, I think 33rd in this field out of 59. That's not good. that's average, if not below average for this. And there's quite a few 200 plus yard approaches on this course. It's a par 73. There's only 3 par 3s on this entire golf course. Plus, he was 53rd in putting in this field of 59. Obviously, we knew that was going to be the corollary. I don't like that his birdie or better percentage was affected so greatly by his putting metrics. He obviously was world class from tee to green. One of the, I'd say, top 5 all time from tee to green in the history of golf. That's how good he was off the tee and on approach last year. And he still came in 18th in this field in birdie or better percentage. That should tell you a lot of concerning things. Why the stats sometimes will lead you to put a bet on a guy at 11-2 when a guy who's 16-1 is better across the board and all those very important metrics at Kapalua than Scotty Scheffler. Because he's the number 1 player in the world, you can never count him out. I'm just saying I'm not laying money on him or Hovland at less than 10-1 because this field is that good. This field is loaded with good players.
So I saw similar with Scotty until I expanded my model, like my amount of rounds that I took into it, and got it back to the Hawaiian swing last year. And what's interesting about that is it becomes number 3 in the field from 200 plus on approach. He comes in number 1 on opportunities gained and number 10 in birdie or better rate. So
if you go back to 2002, you're not going to be able to avoid putting Tiger Woods in here, even though he's not playing.
That's enough, Scotty Scheffler. I'm just saying I don't normally line up for Scotty, and this week
no, you don't.
This week it's lining up for me. So
yeah, but he came in number 1 in my model, but not by the margin that I was hoping for the odds that he's playing. So that's what my caveat is. I'm starting my cards with a guy that I know you're fading, who I think is about as automatic as it gets on the West Coast swing, and that is Patrick Cantlay. Patrick Cantlay, good course history here. He's across the board, one of the best golfers in the world. Short game, tee to green, putting. He does everything really well. He's not going to be the guy that flounders to the middle or the bottom of the pack with a 4-round go at it. This course doesn't have much defense to it, obviously, except for length, and even that is mitigated by the elevation changes. We're talking about cliffs in Hawaii. Like this course is crazy mountainous. But Patrick Cantlay, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, all those guys 12-14, even Ludwig Aubert, which I think he's a little bit short for what we've actually seen from him in fields of this strength. I like him at more of a 20-1. He has slipped from 12-14. Maybe we get a little bit more slipping from Aubert, which makes him more playable on the betting cards. But if you go with Cantlay, Morikawa, and Xander, I'm going to put some money on all 3 of those guys because I feel they're just as likely to win this thing as Scotty and as Viktor.
Yeah, I think of the 3, I'm with you on Xander. Xander's the one that I have the most interest in.
Xander's so locked in too.
I think the problem I have with Cantlay is not that anything you said is not accurate about him. He just really never drags his ass across the finish line. He's right there. And even in the 4 starts here, yeah, he's inside. I think he's got an 11, a 13th, a 4th, and a 3rd or 2 4ths.
He's always there. Yeah.
I mean, he's there, but it's just doing Cantlay things. He never closes it. So.
Yeah.
So, I don't feel.
Some are saying he's still playing last year's tournament.
Yeah, yeah, that might be part of the problem. Is it takes him a week to play 4 rounds. But I have some interest in Morikawa, but I'm a little bit on Morikawa the way you are on Aubert, in that Morikawa had a little bit of a resurgence at the tail end of last year, but he was not playing great golf, and I'm going to hold off betting him until I see if it was like a flash or if he's kind of back into form. So Xander out of those 3 would be the one for me. And he's right up there. You're right. I mean, he's as good as anybody else we've talked about so far, and sets up really nicely here. So
he does. Anybody else we skipped over here? Any interest in Max Homa? Homa rated out extremely poorly in my model, so I'm going to skip him altogether. Shoot, we didn't really skip anybody. Fitz is the next one at 22. Jordan Spieth at 22. This might be the course where even Jordan Spieth can't miss the fairway. But we might see. We might have a cutaway on Thursday with Jordan Spieth hanging on to a little piece of grass on the cliffside because he missed one of the 80-yard wide fairways. Who knows?
The thing
he's done well here. He's won here before.
The thing with him, though, is like somehow magically he plays worse when it's wide open. Like, I don't know how that works, but
aim small, miss small, right?
Yeah. That's it, man. These wide open spaces are not good for Spieth.
But he scores a shit ton of DFS points. That's that. Like when we get to our next section, it's going to be a whole different story on Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, I like Spieth in DFS a lot better. Fitz is probably the one that you mentioned that I would have some interest in. He really was looking good towards the tail end of the season. He's picked up some distance, which I like for his game. He's always good on approach, always good around the green, good putter typically. And he does have the potential to go low if given the opportunity. So Fitz would probably be the one I'd have the most interest in there.
Yeah, and I like him there. If you get a little bit further down, one of my favorite plays at 25, right next to your favorite play at 25, let's debate Tommy Fleetwood against Tom Kim, because I like both of them. I just like Tommy a little bit better here just because of the putting aspect. Tom Kim scares me on the greens. Like, I don't know if he can make enough putts to keep pace with this field.
So I like them both, and in transparency, they're probably both getting bet. I like them both a lot, especially the price.
One of them is going to make us independently wealthy, right?
Yeah, let's hope so, man. Because the thing as it's gone on in the last couple hours, the more that I've looked at the two of them, I think I'm leaning more Tommy if I had to pick one, and it's truly kind of amazing how good he's been playing over the last year.
So good, man. He's solid.
It's Tommy Fleetwood.
He's
right?
a top 10 machine. And I'm looking at his top 10 odds even, and it's plus 220 for Tommy Fleetwood to finish top 10 out of 59 golfers. And the role he's on, that's easy money, I think.
Definitely agree with you. And like I said, I think it's Tommy Fleetwood. So he's one of those dudes we talk about where, like, for whatever reason, he doesn't get the credit he deserves for as good as he's been playing. And not only has he been playing good on the PGA Tour, he's been playing good across the ocean too. You put him in any tour, any setup, any course, any whatever, and Fleetwood still manages to perform. So, I think more so than Tom Kim, he's just a steady Eddie. I think with Tom Kim, I think I lean more as a DFS play with him, just because I think the upside and the point scoring could potentially end up being higher if neither one of them wins. I think Tom Kim probably has the higher DFS scoring potential than Tommy, barring one of them winning.
Yeah. All right. So as we go down here, I know we both like Sungjae M. Just a great fit for this course. Excellent course history. This guy's a top 5 machine at Kapalua. As good of a ball striker as you're going to find. Proximity on the approach distances. All the buckets look great. He's a guy who can put the lights out when he's on. I don't think you're going to disagree with me on him. So we'll skip right through Sungjae because we both love him. Sungjae 35-1 odds to win. And let's see. I like Ricky here at 35. I think that's a little short for him here, but he does line up well in the stat model for me. Russell Henley, same thing at 35. Cam Young, can't do it. But Wyndham Clark, are you with me on Wyndham Clark? Because he's kind of like Jordan Spieth in a way where if he can find the fairways, we're talking about a top 5 putter in the world and a pretty decent approach player when he's in the fairway.
So I'm probably going to eat my words really quickly this season, but I think I think Wyndham's 15 minutes are up, man. I think
oh no.
I
hope he wins now. I hope he wins the first tournament of the year to shut your ass up.
Like, don't get me wrong. I think he'll have a couple good performances, but like
He won a major last year.
and he didn't do a whole lot after that, if memory serves. Um,
No, he couldn't find the fairway with the mat.
frankly, I think he's just one of those guys that I think we're gonna have our spots with him. He was one of the big outrights that you and I hit this year or last season. Like you see it coming with Wyndham. I don't see anything to show that it's coming this week. I would say let's get a few tournaments under our belt and then maybe go back to the Wyndham Clark well. But yeah, right now, there's just I don't see it.
So there's two other guys at 50 to 1 that I don't like as much, but they did rate out well in the stat model. Eric Cole, Cam Davis. What do you think?
Eric Cole, I think, is where I'm going there. I do like Cam Davis, though. I got a lot of love for him.
Cam Davis is chalky as all hell in DFS, though, because the course history.
Yeah, I don't think he wins, but I think he's going to score some points. I think we'll talk more about eating some chalk when we get there, but I think for betting, I think Eric Cole probably has the higher upside to win. So that's kind of where I'm going there. My guy in the 50s is another dude that I rarely jump on board with, but Sahith Theegala at 5,500.
It's that same premise, though. If he can find the fairway, he's pretty damn good.
100%. And we already know he can putt. So we don't have to worry about him getting a little crooked off the tee or on his approach. These greens are huge. The fairways are huge. He's one of the top 3 putt avoidance guys in this entire field. And frankly, I mean, he actually plays pretty good. He's a lot like our buddy. Oh God, who's the guy with the 3 rounds? Why am I drawing a blank right now? We don't talk about him.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But anyways, I wrote Theegala up, and my biggest point on him is he's got all the tools. He just has to keep it together for 4 rounds. And I think this is a good setup for him because there's not a whole lot of consequence for a couple of bad shots. He doesn't have to worry about a cut. So, and he can definitely score birdies by the truckload when he gets going. So, Theegala at 55, I think, is a pretty good number here for him.
I'll see your Theegala at 55 to 1, and I'll raise you at Denny McCarthy at 65 to 1. All things being equal, this guy puts the lights out, top 5 in the world putting. And for me, I just think that these guys are all going to be kind of in the same place and off the tee. They're going to even if Denny's not as good on approach, he's pretty good on approach. His weakness has been off the tee. And if he's got a 15-foot putt, I trust him on a 15-footer for birdie more than I trust Scotty with a 10-footer for birdie. That should tell you a lot. So, yeah, Scotty might be 5 feet closer to the hole on approach than our guy, Denny McCarthy. But Denny McCarthy makes putts, and he makes long putts. And they're going to have some long putts here. Whether you're amazing on approach or not, Scotty's going to have some long putts to deal with because nobody's perfect out here. They're not going to be pin seeking on a 7,600-yard course. The guys that I trust are the guys that, like you said, are going to avoid 3 putts, and they're going to make some long bombs. Because if you're not making bombs here, you're not keeping up with 30 under par.
Yeah, Denny fell off my card just before the show, but I see all your points. He's right on the cusp, and he may get added. We'll see. I'm not going to fight for him or against him. It was really close for me, and the big reason is exactly what you said. Excellent putter.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to take a wild guess that your long shot is Vincent Norman.
It's not.
Wow. Hit me.
It's not as deep and as long as I normally go.
Wow, it's gonna be that kind of show tonight. That's what she said.
There it is. So my man Luke List at 100 to 1.
Oh my God.
So here's why. You got to hear me out. I knew you were going to give me hell for this, but if you look at Luke List is like the anti-Scotty Scheffler. Like all of a sudden, Luke List found a putter the back half of last year and started competing in every
brief moment. Yeah.
Actually, if you look at it, he was pretty much just flat with the putter, which for Luke List is incredible.
Amazing. Yeah.
So what the other part about that is the rest of his game, which has always been right on the cusp of being elite, stayed pretty consistent as well. His approach game was solid. He's long off the tee, accurate off the tee, gains strokes on approach and off the tee every single week. And again, his putter has
Still
been
57th in this field.
That's not the important part. The important part to focus on is he's not losing strokes on the green. Like,
okay, yeah.
So, and nobody makes birdies the way that Luke List can when he gets going. So I'm just saying 100 to 1, it's reflective of the risk, but 100 to 1 on Luke List, who won in the last 6 months and definitely has as complete a game as Luke List is capable of having. I think it's actually a pretty good bet.
You already know who my long shot is.
Yeah, and I don't like him here. He's a grinder. He's not a.
That's true. I mean, I'm just looking at the way it's set up. Long iron approach shots, he's amazing. Top 5 in the world in approach over 200 yards. Again, an erratic driver who's got distance, so he's going to find these fairways. His brother played college golf in Hawaii. He's played here before. This course sets up really well for Kurt Kitayama, and what you said might be the one thing that keeps him at 110 to 1, because he's not traditionally the type of guy who shows up at the top of the leaderboard when the scoring is primo, like it will be here. But let's say the trade winds kick up. If the trade winds kick up, like we very well could get, this becomes a Kurt Kitayama course where, like, oh yeah, 14 unders to 20 under is going to win. We're going to see Kurt Kitayama in the top 10 in that case. If it's a 25 to 30 under par, no, he's not going to be able to keep up because he's not that type of golfer. But as far as what his skill set says he can do, it definitely lines up, because he is exactly the type of golfer you want if you're just looking at stats. Like, okay, I need a guy who has good, long off the tee, good on long approach, and can get hot with the putter. That seems like a good fit for 110 to 1. Am I saying he's going to win? No, but plus 750 for top 10, plus 375 for a top 20, I believe. We can do a lot worse than that.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule him out. I think at that price, just to be honest and objective, Luke List has a way higher potential to win here. Like, he can keep up with the scoring if he's firing on all cylinders. I think
at the same time, if the wind is over 5 miles an hour, Luke List has none chance to win here.
I mean, I don't have the wind.
Maybe 10 miles. I'll give him some credit. 10 miles an hour. If the sustained winds are more than 10 miles an hour, Luke List should be at 250 to 1. He has no chance. We're talking about Hawaii here.
I'm not in on Kitayama this week. There will be weeks.
And I'm not in on List ever because the dude sucks.
There will be Kitayama weeks, but this is not one for me.
You have any props you want to throw out there? Did you come up with any props?
Actually, two of them that I actually really like because of the history at this course. Will there be a playoff? Yes, plus 300. And will that playoff have 4 men in it? And a yes on that is plus 6,500. So
4 men.
Four would be a stretch, but you can also get plus 900 for a 3-man, and I think you can get plus 300 for just a head-to-head. But historically, there's a lot of playoffs here, so plus 300 for the yes on a playoff.
Especially with the expanded field, I like that.
And then I had a couple of first-round leaders that I was kind of in on. Aubert at 20 to 1, List at 50 to 1, and then I'm giving a little love to my boy Lee Hodges at 80 to 1.
Lee Hodges.
I got Lee Hodges plus 250 too. Or
oh my god.
5,000, I mean.
Wow.
You
should drink a little bit more.
No,
I called you an Uber here. He's already this show's already off the rails. Lee Hodges and Luke List on the same. Wow. Okay.
All L's on my first round leader, man. All L's.
Let's try to avoid slamming trunks this week, although I think Connor's already lubing up the pulley on his trunk here.
WD-40 for you.
The club is well. This would be a wrestling class.
All right, we're using DraftKings for pricing here. DFS plays. This is Connor had a really good year last year in DFS. I won more in betting. Let's hope that 24 has a little bit more in store for me in the DFS realm. Connor, very top of the board. I think we're going to fight right off the bat because I think the first tournament of the year, we're going to have a lot of people, a lot of newbies in the lobbies playing these tournaments and on DraftKings. And chalk is going to be unruly and on certain guys. And I want to avoid that because if those guys don't hit, then I want to be in the minority on the leverage side, especially as the season kicks off and all the newbies haven't been flushed yet. That's what I kind of feel. It's kind of the same week one mentality in the NFL DFS as golf. This is week one. And I want to use as much leverage on the field in tournament play as I can. And from what I gather is that you disagree and you would like to strategically play some chalk at the top so that you can get a little funky down below. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong. Because I do want to play Scheffler. And I want to play Scheffler because I think sharp money is going to be on Scheffler in DFS. I think the casual is going to look at his price tag and have a hard time building a roster. So what I'm seeing with the projections is that, at least in the database that you and I both use, which is our people that are kind of in it. Scheffler is the chalk up there, about 24% projected, but I think that also says to me that of the top tier guys, the majority of people think that he either is A, going to win, or B, score the most DK points in that tier. So I like hammering Scheffler in and eating some chalk there.
24% is a little bit less than I expected from Scheffler. I think you're right about the price point. They're getting a little spooked off of that $11,000 tag. The only leverage guy up here is Viktor Hovland at 15.6%, according to Fantasy National, which I love too. So where I'm not going Scotty, I'll definitely be attacking that Viktor Hovland leverage because this dude scores more DFS points than just about everybody. Rory McIlroy not being in this field means that Victor's probably the classiest DFS play on the board. And to have him as a leverage play at the top is fantastic. That's incredible because the other two guys I like up here from the betting side are even more chalky than Scotty Scheffler. So for me, I'm playing it a whole different way from my betting cards. Betting cards, it doesn't matter if you have leverage or not. You just have to have the winners. In DFS, you have to know what the field is playing, and you have to build a lineup that can win the whole damn thing. And you need to score a lot of damn points in a field of 59 golfers. There's not going to be much differentiation to have here. So find the leverage where you can. Play Scotty, who's a little bit less chalky than expected. Play Victor because he's a lot less chalky than everybody expected so far. And try to avoid the chalk bombs where I was just saying we should play Morikawa and Xander. Those guys are chalky as hell. Cantlay, chalky as hell. So those might be guys that I play about 15 to 20% of and let the rest have him. And play like 50% Hovland, 50% Scheffler.
Yeah, that's about the ratio on Scheffler and Hovland that I'm going to do. And to your point, over the 2023 season, I was really surprised to find out that Hovland was in the top 3 for DK points scored. So, no cut event. Beautiful. Hovland, in my mind, is almost a must roster because he's just going to score points on points on points.
At 10-5, it's a perfect jumping off point for your lineup. You're not going to spend $11K to try to piece it together down below as much.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like I said, I'm rostering Scheffler, but I think Hovland kind of has the recipe to be the best play in that top tier. I am different than you. I'll eat the Xander chalk. I think that 25% on Xander at 10 flat, you can build a really nice lineup with that. And you can get different down below a little bit. Like there are some leverage plays in the 8s and the 7s.
For sure.
That makes sense.
There's even some leverage in the 9s that you don't like.
Which for you will be easier than me then.
Yes. We're talking about Wyndham Clark, who's coming in at 7.9%.
God, I can't do it. I'll let you talk about Wyndham Clark if you're going to do it. I can't do it.
Honestly, the price point is part of the reason. He's a little expensive at 96. I wasn't expecting that price point for him, because if you look around him, he's kind of like Big Bird at the boardroom here with Max Homa and Matt Fitzpatrick around him, which and even Cantlay for 300 more is a spectacular play compared to Clark. I thought Clark was going to be in the high eights next to Jordan Spieth and Ludwig Oberg and Tom Kim in Fleetwood. Fleetwood sitting down here at 9,000 flat at less than 10% rostership, and that's fantastic. I love that. Right next to Colin Morikawa at 30%. That's an easy choice for us, and I love easy choices.
Yeah, Fleetwood is rapidly becoming my most common second guy in. I cannot fight you one bit there. I do like.
I want to fight with you though. Come on, let's go.
I will fight a little bit with you just briefly about Wyndham Clark. Like, I just cannot do it. I price point whatever 9,600 for Wyndham Clark. Like,
that's a lot.
It's a lot, man. And I think a lot of sharp.
It's too much even for next man in. I think that's why, again, the price point makes him less chalky, because you're looking at him next to all these other guys and it doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't pass the test. The sniff test is he's not coming up at 96 where you want him to be your second man in. You don't want that.
He also doesn't really score DraftKings points the way that these top tier guys do either. He's 36 over the last 50 rounds in DK points scored. So in this field, that's really saying something. So I just think all signs point to picking a better spot on Wyndham Clark. Not paying $9,600 for him. So yeah, I think that does get us into the nines, and I think the most grossly mispriced thing in this entire slate is Ludwig Oberg, $8,700. I cannot.
Yeah, and he's chalk that you kind of want to pick on because it's 22%. It's not that high, right? It's just a mispriced 8,700. And it's the opposite of the betting lines where he's overpriced and on the betting cards at 14-1, and he's vastly underpriced in DFS. So what's that tell you? It's like the sportsbook and the DFS algorithms don't line up here.
Yep. And
just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, like with him being that chalky at 8,700, I think that it's a really telling thing for DFS strategy. It's definitely showing you that the majority of people are actually making him their second guy in, because he can't be your third guy in, not unless you're building the rest of your lineup in the 6K. So the majority of people, it would look to me, are going Scotty or Xander, and then dropping down, and Ludwig is the next guy in. So I guess what I'm saying is you either got to get real creative down at the bottom if you want leverage, or you got to start lower, i.e. doing like a Viktor Hovland, and then you might be able to get two guys in the either lower nines, upper eights, and play Aberg. Yeah. But yeah, I think there's some strategy to be had playing him, even though he's coming in as chalk. I think like I said, it's really depicting what people are doing in rostering. So
yeah, and some of these guys that I don't like or that are chalky, that it's kind of saving us here, because you can pretty easily skip. You can play Ludwig Oberg because Ricky Fowler's at 15%, Tony Finau's at 15%. Sungjae at 18% is almost more appealing, because as we get down to this middle tier, we get other mispriced guys, and you can get semi-different just by playing some of these guys who are just mispriced. And I'm starting to come around on your whole selective chalk thing, because the guys that I want to play are around 15%, and the guys I really don't are either super duper chalky or nobody has them, and everybody's thinking like we are.
Yeah, it's one of the few weeks that I play it that way. But I mean, anytime you get into a lesser quantity in the field, no cut event, you're going to have a lot of chalk. And so what I try and do, like we just were talking about, just strategically, is I try and look at how I think people are building their roster. and you can follow the numbers to try and get a pretty good idea of how people are building. And I think that's the way things are going right now. To your point, I mean, getting down into like the lower 8s, the upper 7s, there's some class in here that you can play and be different. I mean, Keegan Bradley, not that I line up to play Keegan Bradley, but at 2.5%.
4%.
Yeah, I've got him. Yeah.
He's up to 4.3 is what they're showing here. But actual fantasy national lineup generator is 1.6.
Yeah, which is wild.
That's wild.
And it wasn't like Keegan was playing badly. So I mean, there's a real good leverage opportunity, and he
was playing Bradley.
Yeah. I mean, other guys in that region too. Like I don't do it often, but Justin Rose, no cut event, excellent approach game. Projected it under 10% rostership down there. I mean, pretty good play. And right below him, Lucas Glover, who was absolutely on fire the back half of the season, is coming in at even less.
Glover.
So, you know, I think once you get down to like Eric Cole, who objectively I love, rates out really well, et cetera,
super chalky.
30, potentially 30% by the time the dust settles. He's at 28% right now projected. Like, no thanks.
That's a lot. It's okay to bet on him because he does line up well, but that's way too chalky for a value play. There's so many good golfers down here. Don't just look at it and say, hey, Eric Cole, that's great. Blah, blah, blah. Like, I'd rather play Denny McCarthy, even though you won't, at 6%. And you have Siwoo down here at 5%. That's nice. Siwoo Kim in Hawaii is he's a winner. And he can get hot. This is in a guy that scores a lot of fantasy points. Cam Davis is in the Eric Cole bucket here at 7,100 at 19%, up to 28% chalk. That's an easy fade. We're saving you a lot of stress. For all you have to do is dodge these landmines of guys that are in the same tier of play who aren't even rating out as well as some of the guys who are coming at 5-6%, but they're somehow 30% owned. And you're like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. Well, sometimes it's not that hard. You look at it at face value and say, well, I'm not going to play that guy, so I can be a little different. It's a super easy strategy move in DFS golf.
I mean, I like your call on Siwoo. We played a lot of Siwoo last year, so I don't hate that.
You did. To great success.
If I'm going to eat moderate chalk in this price range, Cam Davis, I think on lineups where I don't even know how I'm going to build that Cam Davis makes sense at 30%. But,
right.
But I do want some exposure.
It doesn't make sense.
Some exposure to Cam Davis. But I think at 18% projected, JT Poston, who sets up and rates out better than Cam Davis.
The postman.
I think actually it's not leverage, but it is for the price range. You know, like he's actually relatively modestly rostered in comparison to some of the guys down here, i.e. Eric Cole and Cam Davis. So,
right.
You know, I like JT Poston as a pivot. Denny McCarthy is actually a good pivot as well. And they're both sandwiched right in between two of the highest rostered guys on the whole slate. So
yeah, that's what I like. It's an easy pivot. Let's see. You got, it's just an easy pivot. You're looking at, I'm looking at Siwoo and Denny right next to Cole and Davis. And I like that in between JT Poston 15 to 20%. That's not that bad. 7,200. That's a value play, and he's got plenty of upside.
Number one putter in the field over the last 50.
That's nice. You like to see that.
So the other guys that I like in this range, I'm going to take a couple shots at Adam Hadwin again. Low rostership, 7 flat. I like what he does on the green. Avoids 3-putting quite a bit, and surprisingly, he scores relatively okay DK points for not
relatively okay pays the bill sometimes.
It does when it's 7 flat. Like, it's such a nice number, depending on how you're building, because you're getting a fair amount of value for him. You're also avoiding Cam Davis right above him. Ben On, I think, is a really interesting play. Had a couple of spikes of brilliance back half of the year. He rates out 16th for me overall. But what really caught my eye with him is he does make a ton of birdies, and he's been really solid in terms of, for Ben on, avoiding 3 putts. Like, his overall putting hasn't been great, but for Ben on, it's been markedly better than it previously was. So he's a little bit like Luke List in that regard. Longer hitter, better at the longer approach distances. And if he can just be his like newly found flat putting self, Ben on definitely has the chops to go low. So
I love that segue too, because down here at 6,200 is the chalkiest chalk bomb to ever be chalk. Luke List 24% on Fantasy National at 6,200. Don't do that, please don't. I even Connor wouldn't do that.
I will not be rostering.
Right, Connor?
I will not be rostering Luke List at that percentage. I will be hopeful that the 100-1 hits instead.
Come on, baby.
Hey, if Luke List 100-1 hits, I'm not even probably going to care what happened in DFS.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like Vincent Norman's down at 6,500. I like him a little bit. He's 7 to 8% rostered. That's not bad. Yeah, if you're getting down in the mid to low 6s, you're probably not doing too hot with the lineup construction because of all these guys in the 7s and 8s that we already outlined.
I do have a couple down here that statistically make a ton of sense, that I think are actual quality plays. Adam Svensson, 6,600.
Svensson, oh, another Canadian.
There is a lot to like about his game over the last 50 rounds. He's been super good on his approach and being like within 10, 15 feet of the hole. So that's helped his putting quite a bit for him. Scores a ton of DK points, and he's very good from that longer 200 plus approach distance. So we like that. And just like I said, his overall approach game he's 13th in this field, strokes gained approach over the last 50. So, I mean, when you look at the total body of work from the 2023 season, if you expand even further out, I mean, he just gets better and better. Like, he's been incredibly consistent. He is getting to be a bit chalky down here, sub 7. I got him tracking around 11, 12%, but he's a really nice low tier play. I mean, he actually has a ton of upside versus a lot of the guys down in here. I mean, you got Eric Van Rooyen, who, if there's a drop of water on the course, his ball will end up in it.
Oh, you mean that playing golf on an island might not be good for EVR?
You know what I think?
What do you mean we're surrounded by water?
Oh God, he probably won't go in water all week. He'll probably win. Like, every time I make fun of EVR.
No,
but yeah, I mean, there's some low tier plays that I think people will gravitate towards. Jokingly, Lee Hodges, who I brought up in the earlier segment, actually has been playing pretty good golf. Rates out decently. Great par 5 scorer in this field. Putting, he's in the top 20, which again at a $6,500 price point. If you're stacking top heavy and you need a couple guys down here, God help you and God bless you as you hit submit. But yeah, I mean, Lee Hodges and Svensson are going to be the two that I take the deepest look at down here.
All right, Connor, you are a wild man. You're a wild man. It's week 1, 2024. The Sentry, not the Sentry Tournament of Champions anymore, because they're letting just about any Yahoos in the top 50 into this tournament now. Another one for the participation trophy crowd. That's not true. These guys are all really damn good. Even Nico Echeverria made the field here, which tells you everything you need to know about Conor Coughlin, because he's been talking about Nico Echeverria for 2 years now. Bless your heart, Connor. But the last man in is Nico, and nobody else is talking about Nico because really nothing to talk about with Nico.
It's
other than he had some prompt. So you should probably just take a shot at him for old time's sake, for posterity.
Yeah, bet Nico.
So you said 2,800 was your pick, first round leader. You had a couple guys. I'm going to keep it pretty close here. I'm going to say minus 31. I think the weather will be fine. And I do think that the first round leader will be Collin Morikawa. Weird. I believe
Yeah,
he's 20 to 1.
I'll stick with the 28. I'm gonna say Viktor Hovland wins, and I'm gonna say Aubert is the first round leader.
Okay. I think my outright winner is going to be Cantlay. I have this weird feeling that Cantlay is just going to get blistering hot, shoot 65, 65, 65, 65, and just make it like the most boring snooze fest of a birdie barrage that we've ever seen. But if it wins me money, it wins me money.
Well, and on the bright side too, he'll be warm because he'll just be finishing up at the Sentry when we're teeing off at the Sony next week. So
yeah, and that's on a whole different island, so we might not even see him.
Oh man, it is good to be back though.
Yep. We will see you next week for the Sony Open at Wailai Country Club on Oahu, one island over. From Conor Coughlin, I am Bo McBrayer. Join us next time on In Between Media, the 19th hole, as always, live. YouTube.